Foundation. That's one of our partners, to come and grace this evening with an opening remark. Please put your hands together for her as she comes.
Thank you, Franz. Thank you, moderators. Well, ladies and gentlemen, presidential candidates, members of political parties, honorables that are present here today, and yeah, especially the youth. I would like to welcome and greet you all on this wonderful Friday. Basically, my role is very limited here tonight. It's basically to greet and to welcome you all. And I'm happy to see that we are provided with this wonderful building, the National Theatre. Normally we come here to listen to concerts or to watch performances, cultural performances, but I do believe that this public debate will be as important and also hopefully a little bit entertaining. But as our dear moderator already mentioned earlier, it's about raising awareness, it's about exercising our democratic rights, it's about looking closer at election. And while now the manifestos of mostly all political parties are out now, I think there's a lot of discussions we can link to that. And I'm really very excited and also very interested in this debate this evening. And let me also say that outside there are a lot of voters who are still not made up their decisions. So this is also a chance, an opportunity we give them, together with Eagle FM, to give them information about the political parties, what they're about. So it is also a chance for the political parties themselves to convince its voters why do they shall give the vote to them. What is the advantage and how do they about to address the bread and butter issues in these countries? And I think I don't have to mention them. We are all aware of them: the unemployment, the housing problems, and many, many more. Basically also the economic situation, and it's touching our youth. And I'm really glad to see a lot of young people out here. Yeah, and we as Konrad Adenauer Foundation, we are glad that we can offer the platform. It's indeed the second presidential debate for this year. The one was earlier in May, and now we have got the second one. So it is about, it's also about our values, which are accountability, promoting democracy, rule of law, transparency. I mean, you're all aware of this. We are all known here in the country. I don't have to repeat this. And and also let me state that this kind of political debate, presidential debate that we are conducting today, it is something that is in common in mature democracies. We see them in the United States recently, and we see also the power that they might have to influence the election. You all have in mind what happened during or after the aftermath of the presidential debate, for instance, with Biden and Harris, and the coming up one. So there's a lot of power in there, don't underestimate, but I also would like to say this is just one instrument or one tool. Of course, there are rallies, there are meetings, there are the social media, where you can look up and make up your mind. So there are many possibilities how one can inform about the upcoming election and about the political parties that are competing with each other. And the good advantage about this kind of platform is that we can see their reaction, that we can see how they're gonna react under pressure. The body language is also something we might be interested in. So I would like also to thank all the presidential candidates that are present here today, to waste their time and their busy schedules indeed in these days, to take part and to be present at this evening. So let me conclude by that. I wish you all a wonderful evening, a good discussion, and hopefully we are learning more and we are more informed when we exit this theater this evening and have food of thought, food of discussion for the upcoming 2 months. And and most importantly, that all of you who are eligible to vote will then take part in this important, very important, maybe it's a historical election and will take part in that. With that, I close my remarks and I wish you all a beautiful evening. Thank you so much.
Right, there you heard it from the director of the Konrad Adenauer Stiftung Foundation. And tonight is tonight. Say, tonight is tonight. Tonight is tonight.
Tonight is tonight.
Yeah, I want to feel your energy more. Can you do it once again? Tonight is tonight.
Tonight is tonight.
Right. So you have made it today to come and see your presidential hopefuls and ask them questions. So give yourself once again a round of applause for making it too. Yes, that's right.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, as we know, every house has its rules, and Eagle FM is no exemption to that. Now, with that being said, a brief code of conduct.
That's right, and for our panelists, each of you will have 2 minutes to answer questions, and there will be a buzz that will ring to show you, to indicate to you that your time is up, and it is a time for the next person or candidate, rather, to answer the question. And to our audience tonight, you will also be given an opportunity to be able to answer the question, to ask the question. But when you get that chance, please make sure that your question is short and what?
Sweet.
Short and what?
Sweet.
Short and sweet, so that, your presidential hopefuls are able to answer your question. And please make sure you minimize your movements.
Also take note that no video recording is allowed. We are live streaming this event right on our social media handles. Facebook, we are Eagle FM, Namibia. Now, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce our candidates. Also do take note that this invitation was extended to all political parties, but it's only those who are going to be on stage who honored the invitation. Now, in no particular order, allow me to welcome from the Affirmative Repositioning Party, Professor Job Amupanda. And now, from the Republican Party, Mr. Mathias Mbundu. From the Popular Democratic Movement and leader of the official opposition, Honorable McHenry Venaani. From Landless People's Movement, Honorable Bernadus Swartbooi. Now, independent candidate who is endorsed by the United People's Movement, Ms. Angula. From the Congress of Democrats, Mr. Vaino Amuthenu. From the National Empowerment Fighting Corruption, Mr. Stephanus Matthews. Unfortunately, he is not here. Oh, welcome, sir. My apologies. And now, last but not least, from the Namibian economic freedom fighters, Honorable Epaphras Mukuilongo. Let me wait before I say something. Unfortunately, he is not here. Now, another round of applause for our candidates who made it this evening. I think that is not good enough. Another round of applause, please.
They will answer the questions one by one. And before we do that, please let me remind you to put your phone on silence so it doesn't disturb you and the next person.
Ladies and gentlemen, please take note that our questions were thoroughly and carefully selected under the following themes: economy, youth, politics, health, land and housing, as well as natural resources. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let the debate begin.
Right. And now we start with the backbone of the country, which is the young people. Youth.
Excuse me. I want to find out why you have Konrad Adenauer Stiftung here. It's a foreign institution that previously organized the debate. We refused to participate because there's no way that a foreign institution can be involved in matters of national concern. And we have this body here. We were not informed, because if you had informed us, we would not have come, because the person that leads that body came and gave a presentation. We have no relationship with Konrad Adenauer, have no interest to have a relationship with them. These are German institutions that are here for their own interests, and we take strong exception toward your deception of us. It's not right. It's not right. So if you can give me time to consult with my colleagues so that we can determine whether we should continue to participate in this debate. Please give us 5 minutes.
Well, to answer your question, sir, we have reached out to many companies, and Nectars and Cars are the only ones that responded.
Madam Chair.
Right.
Madam Chair. Yeah, can you just permit me to say something? Can I?
Allow me to consult as well, sir. Perhaps let's just give them perhaps 3 minutes, and then we can continue.
Yeah, no, I just want to say something. Okay. Yeah, because we are on the same route with UPM, where we are endorsing LPM. Madam Ali. I only come here to make it official announcement. I will not part of the debate.
Well noted. Ladies and gentlemen, please applaud for the candidates who are willing to partake in this presidential debate.
All right.
Just hold on.
Okay.
Just hold on. Yeah. So Yes, we are interested in participating in the debate, but let's not create an impression that we don't agree with that discussion.
Okay.
That is, don't make it about LPM. It's a fundamental issue that we need to clarify.
Professor,
And,
that is well noted.
Yeah, so what you could do, yes, we want to participate in it, but it's not about LPM, because we're invited here by Eagle FM, but Eagle FM never welcomed anybody. It was Conrad that spoke when we were at the backstage. We couldn't even hear what she was talking about. So it's not about LPM. So LPM is consulting. My advice would be that you also need to consult. Then we make a determination. That 5 minutes is not for LPM. Make it for everyone.
Noted. Now, we do sincerely apologize for that inconvenience. We will definitely do better next time. Okay? Can the debate begin now? Okay, let the debate begin.
Right. The backbone of any country is the youth. And youth unemployment is very pertinent in Namibia and is a thorn in the flesh. Now, nearly 300,000 of the working-aged youth are struggling to find jobs. What specific measures will you implement to tackle youth unemployment? And when and how soon can they see or expect to see real change? Let me start with Honorable McHenry Venaani, leader of the opposition.
A very good evening to the sovereigns of our republic, the citizens that are here tonight. Only for you we are here, and because you have asked us to come and share our thoughts with you, we have made time to be with you. So you are very important people in this conversation. Secondly, permit me to welcome my fellow contestants, dear brothers and sisters that are here with me, that we should have a civil and a statesman's-like conversation on behalf of our country and people. You have asked a very fundamental question that needs to be answered as a matter of agency in securing a better future for our country. Our country is a repository of mineral resources, resources that God has imbued for the survival and existence of our humanity. Secondly, anywhere else in the world where you had industrialization, whether from the Asian tigers in Asia, whether from the monolithic revolution in Europe, the Americas, and everywhere, your first step towards industrialization is to open agricultural mechanization and modernization. For us to absorb the necessary skills that are in the country and to create jobs, we must upscale agriculture. My government, if I'm elected president of this country, will spend 10% of our national GDP on mechanizing and revolutionizing agriculture to be able to absorb jobs in rural areas, jobs at our perennial rivers across our country, so that agriculture lead. Secondly, we will also implement a very firm policy on absorbing jobs towards industrialization. 50% of our countries, as a start of 50% of our country's minerals must be processed, must be value added, so that we can be able to have the necessary jobs, to absorb the necessary jobs in the market. Thirdly, we must break the cycle of asking young Namibians, grade 12 or a graduate degree, 10 years. So I'm very clear on that, those two issues.
Right. Give it up for him again. All right. Now we turn to Professor Job Amupanda. You have heard the question.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I'm very happy to be here. I think we need to be very clear. What do we mean by youth? Youth, by definition, means that transition from childhood dependence to adulthood independence. That's what we're talking about. So if you don't have that understanding and you just shout, youth unemployment, you are going to have a problem. These are a segment of a population that is in transition. If you are 10 today, tomorrow morning you are 10 in one day. So it's very important for us to be able to understand. And those people that we're talking about, in terms of our country, they are 60% of the population. The African Youth Charter says from 15 to 35. The African Youth Charter was adopted by the Parliament, and that becomes part of our legislation. Now, last year, they created a new policy again, and they reduced the years from 35 to 34. Okay? So it's very important. When you are talking about unemployment, you are speaking specifically about numbers. Okay? So what is it that we are going to do to address problems of youth unemployment? So firstly, we need to be very clear in terms of who we are talking about. That's one. And because everyone, even if a 40-year-old is called a youth in Namibia. Now, first intervention is youth institutions. So you have National Youth Council, National Youth Service. You need to create the third one called Youth Enterprise Fund to be able to fund those young people specifically. Okay? So you need to have 3 legs institution. One for advocacy, one for training, one specifically to fund young people that are doing their own enterprises. The last one is actually economic growth. We have been having economic growth, but a jobless growth. Yeah? You can have all these investors that are coming from Germany, but if it's a jobless growth, it's a jobless growth. Okay? So we need to make sure that economic growth is also met with employment creation, not just growth for its sake.
Okay. Now, I violated the rule because it was supposed to be lady first, but it's fine. Miss Eli Angula, you have heard the question. Your take on the question.
So for me, it's very important that we immediately get into job creation because we have a huge population of unskilled young people. We have to set ourselves a very ambitious target of creating 500,000 jobs. And if anybody else talks about a number that is lower than that, we are not going to be moving the needle. There is about 336 young people, 336,000 young people that have dropped out of high school, that have dropped out of primary school, that have not been educated because of our education system that fails and forces young people at the age of 15 and 16 to drop out of school and get into the streets. So what we need to do is we need to get into industries that create jobs and jobs en masse. One of those industries is tourism. The moment you establish a tourism establishment, you've got at least 15 jobs that you're creating. The second one is agriculture because it allows you to move up the skills ladder. The third one is manufacturing, producing goods and services. But for us to be able to get there, we need to be able to invest in young people. And we need to be able to trust young people with money and fund their businesses. So as part of Enterprise Namibia 12 billion fund that I've spoken about, it includes a 2 billion component, which I'm calling the President's Youth Special Initiative Fund, to fund youth businesses in agriculture, in IT, and in tourism. The second thing that we need to do is we need to look at all of our graduates, all of our people that have graduated from the VTCs, from NIMT, from the COSDEF. These are skilled people, and we need to match them to opportunities. We've got government garage vehicles that are lying as graveyards. These are mechanics that are graduating from VTCs but do not have an opportunity.
Eli, your time is up.
All right, now we now turn to Member of Parliament. Honorable Epaphras Mukwirongo, you have heard the question, your take. Okay, he's not here? Okay. What about Mr. Vaino Amuthenu? Mr. Vaino Amuthenu is from the Congress of the Democrats.
Thank you, the Chairman, and good evening to everyone. My name is Vaino Amuthenu, a leader of the Congress of Democrats. COD have a two plan for job creation of the youth. One is a long-term plan, and the second one is the immediate one. Our first action when COD is elected to power, we will get rid of all the foreign unskilled workers in Namibia. We will not have our graduates from university and they are going back and sit at home while we have foreigners taking our job in the country. And the second, the long-term one, is we are going to train to build more vocational training in all the regions so that we have employable youth that will start working immediately after they graduate from vocational trainings. Thank you.
Okay. So we turn to Honorable Bernadus Swartbooi.
Thank you very much. We'll immediately set up a 500 million Namibian dollars to develop a sports economy so that we can fund leagues of horse racing, tennis, cricket, rugby, soccer, so that these become immediately profitable and that young people can begin to give the best they have, because sports is really undermined, underfunded. 500 million immediately. Then the mining sector will immediately compel a 40% supply to small and medium enterprises of young people so that all goods and services that mining sector companies source from South Africa and elsewhere are compulsorily given to young people with a development bank funding of at least 3 billion that will be available to support those companies of young people so that they're immediately within the value chain of the mining sector. What will they'll also immediately do is to ensure that our young people in the primary, secondary school system do not have to get out of school. Already at grade 7 level, we are losing 40% of our children. We'll immediately stop that process so that whoever gets into grade 1 ends up at grade 12, howsoever long it takes them, so that we have somebody that we can work with in the long run. Then, of course, what we'll also do is to make sure that GIPF funding for unlisted investments also targets around 45% of young people's enterprises deliberately in a sustainable way, with at least a portfolio investment of about 12.5 billion, so that these young people's enterprises, where flats are built, where houses are made, can also be at the forefront. Not those established people who keep on getting, because they are connected to the elites, who keep on getting the funding from portfolio managers, but young people's enterprises that can actually get things done.
Time is up, Honorable. Thank you.
Okay. Last but not least, Mr. Mathias Mbundu from the Republican Party. Your turn.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Oh. Thank you very much. Good evening. My name is Mathias Mbundu. I'm not a candidate. So I'm the SG of the party, representing here the party president, Mr. Hengmach. So I want to touch on the aspect of the youth, as the question was already posted. So in in RP, Republican Party, so skills in emerging economics sectors such as oil, gas, green hydrogen. So that will be the priority employment opportunity through the scholarship, mentorship, and vocational training for out of school youth, those who are unemployed. From abroad. So that is number one. So number two, youth involvements in civical and community affairs must be prioritized through curriculum taught from primary level to foster patriotic youth for the future to come. I thank you.
All right. So last under this theme, is skills development. This is still under youth unemployment. Mrs. Ali Angula, you go first on this one. But first, the most recent labor survey by the Namibia Statistics Agency states that 72% of the unemployed population does not have education beyond the senior secondary level. How will your administration ensure that Namibians are adequately educated and trained to fit the need for our economy?
Before Ms. Aile answers that question, just a reminder to the audience to please keep it silent as our candidates are answering their questions. You may proceed, ma'am.
Thank you very much. There's a varied way that my name is being said. My name is Ali Angula.
Noted.
And then in terms of the 75% that you're talking about, that's the 336,000 young people that I'm talking about that have dropped out of school too early. We need to be building trade schools. We have the NTA that has become a banking institution because at the moment there's 886 million Namibian dollars that should be going into the construction of vocational training centers that is parked on the balance sheet of the NTA. We need to deploy that capital and build in every constituency trade schools. We have structured an education system that caters to 3% of our population. And by that I mean, when a person leaves high school, they should be able to provide for themselves, to come out and be able to contribute to society. And at the moment, we have structured our education system so that person goes into an institution of higher learning, which is academic, university. And then we forget that not all of us are talented academically. The way that you are able to provide for yourself in many countries is when you're using your hands, when you're using the gifting that the Lord has given you. And the way that we can cultivate in our young people is by the construction of trade schools. And we need to be doing this everywhere. So our young people have got access to skills that they can be trained and be able to get into the job market without relying on somebody being able to employ them. And then we need to back that up by trusting them and deploying capital so they can start their enterprises should they wish.
Right, you have heard it. Now we turn to Honorable Bernadus Swartbooi.
Well, it depends on what skills you need, and we'll have to, for instance, follow some of the plans that we began to implement where, when I was governor, we gave 4 hectares to young people in agricultural plots. They began to make in excess of 600,000 Namibian dollars. We have identified a place, Tsumis Agricultural College is one place that we can take and that we have decided to take for a 2-year training program in agriculture, attach that to land, attach that to funding, attach that to an SME, attach that to production and markets, and there you go. You have a group of young people that already produce proper vegetables, wheat, millet, whatever have you. Then, of course, what you'll need to do is, as I said, ensure that you increase the access of young people at the universities from 8%, which is what we have, to around 17%. That means expand the University of Namibia no longer and create another university along the infrastructure that is already there in Oshakati, another campus of another public university in Keetmanshoop. You have 3 public universities. Then you can expand that group to 17%. Further than that, you want to ensure that your vocational training is also connected to industries. There's no way that you can go and train somebody as an electrician, gets out of that job or that training, is not attached to any company and so on. So attach whatever private sector companies there to the training and to the graduates that go in, so that each graduate that goes into a vocational training school knows that their internship is going to be with NAMDEP or DEP Marine, and that you ensure that that skill is not lying idle, and that you create an educated but unemployed person. And so our skills basis is about applied skills development. It's about creating wealth in the livelihood of that person.
All right. We turn to Honorable McHenry Venaani to respond to the question.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator, Madam Moderator, and the audience. I think skills development is a very key tool to be able to advance socio-economic development in general. First and foremost, we need to start with the basics. NASFAF must be reformed so that young people can be able to have access to loans without repaying them back. By doing that, I will bring about the fishing sector. Our fishing sector must give some quotas. Some of our natural resources must be given directly to NASFAF so that NASFAF can be able to fund students free of charge, so that you have a more entry and more access to students. 2, I agree with the speakers when they say that we need to develop with agriculture, that we are going to put 10% of our national GDP on agriculture. We will have to develop value chains. By developing value chains, food processing plants, you have Neckartal Dam, you have the Kavango rivers. At Neckartal Dam, if you are producing tomatoes there, you must create a factory in Beersheba that will do tomato sauce. So that company, every company would be incentivized to be able to train Namibians on the job. These things that we are bringing unskilled Chinese into the country, and we are not skilling our own Namibians, we would incentivize companies to do in-service training for our people while they are employed, so that they can be able to develop jobs on the market. By doing that, we are going to cut the chase twice by saying you are going to get an income, but while you are getting an income, you are also going to be given the necessary skills to be able to up your game. So these are critical areas where we would want. And with value addition, mining companies, for example, that are extracting valuable resources in our country should be taxed heavier if they are not training our people.
Right. You are busy hearing it for yourself. So now we turn to Mr. Vaino Amuthenu. You have heard the question, sir. What do you have to say?
Thank you very much. I'm just repeating myself that we want to create more trainings, vocational training centers. As we look back 34 years down the line, how we have more than maybe 100,000 or 200,000 school dropout. And those people without qualification, they will not get employment. So now what we must put more emphasis on is to train them. It's on training. So I repeat that vocational training is the way to go. Thank you. I thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. We now turn to Professor Job Ampanda.
Thank you very much. After COVID, 30,000 learners did not return to school. Government-owned statistics says that every year 10,000 learners drop out. So in 5 years, though, you're talking about 50,000, almost 100,000. Now, you must remember, dealing with that 100,000, it basically means that they are not part of the education system. Now, the mistake that people make when they are talking about unemployment, they always think within the system. Yeah? Unemployment, you have underemployment. You have also people who are unemployable. So in other words, even if you create jobs, those people will not be able to be employed because they don't have skill sets. So one of our intervention would be to target that thing that is called NTA. We know that under Kanji Murangi, our education system is higher education is in a mess. So you need to be able to come to say, firstly, you have that leg in terms of people who are getting in there. But you also need to, if you just go to Trackport there, you see the Nyembas. Those Nyembas, they don't need to have gone to school. At my village, we have that huge share. It was produced there. Yeah? But the same things that they produce without those qualifications, they are the ones that you find in Nixters. Yeah? So what the NTA and the NQA ought to do is to do what is called recognition of prior learning. So in other words, a young man who's trained by his father, who have not necessarily have gone, part of those 30,000 that never return, part of the 50,000 that drop out every. So we need to have two streams. Deal with skills that are there and the ones that are required, but also to recognize, because without a certificate, this other person will not be able to showcase what they already know, but they already know those things. So we need to have a prolonged system instead of just saying skills, VTC, and say two things like that and say these ones and these ones.
All right? Last but not least, Mr. Matthias Mbundu.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator, for this same question. So I think this is very, very much important. I think it's what I alluded earlier, that skills, we need to pump more resources in vocational training. So that is very, very much important, because so you find it's not everyone who's good in theory. So then it's very important so that we can send these dropout learners to the vocational training centers so that they can do their skill there with handwork. So they can have their company so that they can create their own job. Then he can employ 10 or 15 people that can work to his company if he will become a plumber, a bricklayer, or carpenter. So imagine if you have 100 learners that are doing well in vocational training with this handwork job. And you can, every learner, or every student, or every person, he will employ 10 people, so that those 10 people, they are feeding their family, and the number goes. So I think it's very important so that we cannot abandon vocational training to the left out, those who cannot able to do theory in school. It's very, very important. Thank you very much.
All right, this now brings us to the conclusion of our first session of questions. I will reserve this one. It's a powerful one. I will reserve it for now. And let me just hand over to my co-moderator to continue with the next session.
Okay, now our next set of questions under the theme economy, cost of living. Our very first question being, many Namibians are struggling with the rising cost of living. Namibians spend about 40% of their income on food alone. How will you address inflation and ensure that basic goods and services remain affordable? I begin with you, Mr. Matthias Mbundu.
Thank you very much. I think I must put my mic close to my mouth. So thank you very much for the question, Madam Moderator. So we believe economy can grow if we put more cash in the hands of those who are supporting SMEs to grow their small businesses. That is very, very important. So obviously, foreign investment is welcomed, but provided that they don't undermine our national through tax fraud, exploiting of our workers. So you find these people, they have different companies in the countries and not even bank in the country. So shipping out the money. So then making our people to work hard. So that we cannot allow. So we have to give money to our people so that they can grow their small business, which they are already having, so that they can sustain themselves. So people that are selling kapana, fat cookies, and etc. So we must not abandon those people. Those people actually, they are making more money if we can give more money to them. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Now we move on to you, Ms. Ali Angula.
Thank you very much. So in terms of how do we reduce cost of living and address inflation, let's start with the basics. We have imported inflation because we are so heavily reliant on the South African economy. So when South Africa sneezes, we catch a cold. So we need to increase local production. And we cannot increase local production if our businesses are the ones that are starved of capital. You cannot start going into production, even agriculture or anything else, if you do not have the capital to do that. So that's the first thing. So I am proposing that we establish Angola and in the north and South Africa in the south. Why are we comfortable to only trade with one? There's cheap fuel that's coming from Angola. Fuel drives all of your costs. Fuel drives your food costs because you're needing to transport it over this vast land. So if we just opened up and said we are okay to import the fuel that is coming from Angola and not be tied to fuel that is coming from South Africa or anywhere else, then we will drastically reduce the price of goods in this country. And then when you are into processing and you are manufacturing your own goods, then you are supplying goods that are required in the market. You will have an oversupply and you will then address inflation. Thirdly, we need to get a government that recognizes that the Namibian people are struggling and they need financial help. So I'm advocating and I'm pushing for an introduction of a basic income grant of 1,750 for every Namibian that's between the age of 18 to 59 for a review period of 3 years.
Thank you very much. Honorable Bernadus, Swartbooi, the floor is yours.
Well, we recognize that about 559,000 Namibians are under extreme starvation. We have proposed in our manifesto that we're going to finance a basic income grant for 3 to 4 years, not for the long term, pegged at anything between 1,500 to 2,000. That would cost the economy in excess of 12 billion per year, and it could also have inflationary issues, but it has to be coupled with other interventions that we have to make so that the starving Namibians can start to at least have something to eat, not food handouts, a proper, well-calculated basic income grant. And secondly, we are saying that in terms of what the expenditure is, the large expenses so that people have, is, for instance, on housing. The construction of houses, the provision of land, and the funding for the construction of houses, we're going to decentralize so that local authorities can participate in that scheme led by themselves with their contribution of land to the building of a house, so that you can de-escalate the cost of acquiring land, servicing the land, and then building a house. That would already reduce the expense on housing. And then the question is essentially to make sure that we stop importing many of the things that we are consuming and start producing much more. Fertile land, good water facilities, and bringing in further water from the ocean that is able to go into the hinterland, to make sure that you have development of greater mechanized agriculture, so that we can compel retailers also to purchase Namibian produced goods and not support the South African farmer, ShopRite, Spar, and all of those, to break those value chains when Namibians are cut out.
Thank you very much. Mr. Vaino Amuthenu, the floor is yours.
I only saw them somewhere in the area of Angula, but they are not productive. If we put more effort on those community projects, then our people in the village will not die from hunger. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable McHenry Venaani.
Thank you very much, Madam Moderator. The cost of living and the high Gini coefficient in the country makes our society to be the most second unequal society in the world. So anyone who posits himself to be a leader and wants to be involved in the socio-economic spheres of our people should address the question of inflation head-on. Head-on approach of the PDM and my leadership would be cutting the dependency of South Africa, where we are importing vegetables, fruits from South Africa. My administration in the first 6 months would be able to cut 40% of all the fruits and vegetables that we buy from that country. We are going to produce them here. We are going to revolutionize and mechanize agriculture so that we have food security and food sustainability. Secondly, I disagree with those that are saying we need to give basic income grant to Namibians. I'm saying you can't, listen very carefully, you can't give a basic income grant to someone who earns any salary because he's a Namibian. But what we need to do, my government will give a youth unemployment grant based on the revenue. I'm not going to give you the figure. Based on the national revenue calculated from our GDP, every year we are going to take money from our GDP to be able to give people that do not have jobs, for them to have an unemployment grant in their lifetime, for them to be able to cushion their lives. That's very fundamental. That's very fundamental to us. On the question of the youth are inundated with banks asking them collateral. Our administration will create a youth venture capital that will be able to give bankable projects without collateral to small and medium enterprises. If you look at Japan, if you look at the South...
Professor Job Amupanda, please take it away.
What's happening here? So it's very important for us to understand inflation is a consequence. You don't set out to go and address inflation. Yeah? Inflation is a consequence of that. The first thing that we are going to do is to target that institution called Bank of Namibia. Now remember, at independence, this thing of the South African rand that is pegged, it's only supposed to be 6 months to a year. Now it's 34 years later. What did they do? What did they do just recently? Now, when you are receiving money from South Africa, they are now going. It's now going to be more difficult. That's what this government did. It's now going to be more difficult. But at the same time, they kept the dollar linked to the rand. Why do you want to? When young people want to benefit, business people want to benefit, how do you do that? So we will change that Bank of Namibia. They amended the act to remove the age limitation so that this guy who's there, who's 67 or 61, in the past you couldn't be a governor of Bank of Namibia at a certain age. So we will amend that Bank of Namibia Act to be able to be decisive so that our country can get what is called fiscal sovereignty. Second thing that we're also going to be doing, as far as this thing, we're going to do what is called tripartite procurement. Now the problem when people even, I disagree with colleagues that are talking about mechanizing agriculture. It's very important, but this is what the public is never told. Agriculture only contributes 6% to the country's GDP, only 6%. But it's the largest employer. Yeah, it's the largest employer, but it only contributes that. So at the same time, it's very important for you to understand those specific details. The last thing that we're going to be doing, so the tripartite procurement basically means that you say, bank come here, you that is getting the tender come here, and you that is producing, and then you do that tripartite. The last thing that we're going to do is that we are going to remove taxes on pension.
Now, our last question under the theme of economy is as follows. Between 1999 and 2024, Namibia has had an average trade deficit of 3.7 billion Namibian dollars, signaling an over-reliance on imports. What is your plan to improve the country's manufacturing and processing ability in order to decrease that number? And I begin with you, Professor Job Amupanda.
So thank you very much. One of the first things you need to be able, one of the things that doesn't happen in this country is that economic planning, it is not matched with economic management. Okay? So because of this time thing, I'm actually getting irritated. I can't even explain because of these too many things. So I'm simply just going to give you a scenario so that you can understand. The last debate I'm participating in 2 minutes. So this is what it basically means. So you give Swartbooi a tender to build a clinic in Okahanja. Then you have 100 employees in Okahanja. Then he goes and same procurement, and you give Swartbooi again another tender. You give him Swartbooi another tender for a clinic in Rehoboth. So 100 employees who are supposed to be there. Do you know what Swartbooi does? He takes 100 employees from Okahanja for 2 days to go and work there, right? But it's the same people who are giving that. So we are going to use the budget and procurement as a tool for industrialization. So you are also able to say, but in our system, there's Swartbooi who's building a clinic here. Yeah, because he's using the same architect, same everything, okay? So if you don't match economic planning with economic management, you are going to have same person building a clinic in Okahanja and the same person who's building a clinic using the same employees. But in your figures, you are being told, 200 jobs have been created. They use the word job opportunities. Yeah, opportunity is an opportunity. You have an opportunity to go and have lunch. It doesn't necessarily mean you are going to have lunch. Yeah, so it is important to be able to understand that if we don't have economic planning that is met with economic management, we have this National Planning Commission, yeah, that is there. They appoint some other people that are called commissioners. But you have all these EDs. If it was up to me, every CEO, as president, every CEO, every ED would sit in the National Planning Commission through one mechanism or the other to be able to do this thing.
Thank you very much. Honorable Bernadus, Swartbooi, the floor is yours.
Well, I agree with Dr. Job. This 2-minute thing doesn't allow you to finish. But the first thing I think what is important is that statistic indicates that we consume what we don't produce, and therefore we have to import what we consume. And that's why I disagree with my younger brother here that agriculture affects and is involved with the lives of 943,000 Namibians above the age of 15. It's a big deal. And the reason why it's small in terms of GDP is a lot of farms were sold, its productive capacity is reduced. You want to increase the production capacity in agriculture and therefore create jobs, ensure that you get people connected to the value chains, and therefore reduce your import of various goods that you can produce here. No economy in the world has developed without agriculture. Agriculture, you produce agro-food processing and then packaging, marketing, sales. That's the chain in which you develop. And then therefore, once you have stabilized people's ability to feed themselves as a nation, as a society, your manufacturing and other things begin to be part of what society concentrates on. When you look at, for instance, the oil and gas discoveries that we have gotten, we should position ourselves, for instance, to be one of the biggest refining countries of oil in the continent. That, again, is value addition to your goods and services. Scorpion Zinc has been exporting zinc semi-finished through Lutherans. If you can add value to that here by ensuring that the state also owns a part of what Scorpion produces as a semi-finished product, you already add to your manufacturing base. Mind you, our manufacturing capacity has stood still at 11% of GDP since 1982. And that tells you that either our involvement in SACU is a problem, or we have also not focused as a country on getting into manufacturing. So it's a big deal. It's an important question that 2 minutes will not do justice to.
Noted. Now the 2 minutes are to give us time and to give every candidate time. Otherwise, we'd probably be here until tomorrow. Now, with that being said, we move on to Mr. Vaino Amuthenu.
Thank you. For us to grow our economy, once we stop giving big projects to the foreigners, for example, road construction and other big capital projects, our economy will grow. But since we are giving away projects to foreigners, they will at the same time take our money out of the country. And the other way to grow our economy is to revive our MIDCO in different areas, in communal areas. Because now the meat industry in communal area is dead. There is only Kapana sellers there. Meat are only sold in trade. There's nothing. There's no burevos. There's nothing which is done. Nothing what is done as before. We used to buy even corned beef in Oshakati, Eroro, but now our Abachua in Oshakati is closed. We have to revive that so that we create employment in our economy in that area. We start moving.
Thank you very much. Ms. Elia Angula, the floor is yours. Ms. Ali Angula.
Thank you.
I'm sorry for that.
So, our high import bill is because we don't produce what we consume. We need to be getting into the production side so that we can reduce our import bill. There is no other way. And agriculture gives us that platform to be able to get onto the ladder of production and manufacturing. Why does that? It allows you to take somebody who is unskilled and give them an opportunity to do a job, be able to pay them, and at the end of the day, you are able to get food, and the moment you get into excess production of food, you can get into processing. Everything that is here comes from agriculture. The clothes that we are wearing is cotton or fiber. It is agriculture. This stage that we are on is wood. This is forestry, is agriculture. We need to be saying to ourselves, we might not have some of the things that we need to produce here in Namibia, but I'll use an example. Angola produces sugarcane. If you go to Oshikango, they are getting in fuel illegally, but they're also getting in sugarcane. We can, on this side of the Namibian border, put up a sugar refining process and import raw sugarcane from Angola and have the manufacturing jobs in Namibia. We can import fruit at the lowest level, which is fresh fruit, from Cape Town and dry it in the north and have the biggest export of dried fruit on the continent. We just have to get into production. It's very simple things. We must not complicate something that's not complex.
Thank you very much. And now, Mr. Matthias Mbundu, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for the opportunity once again, Madam Moderator. So this is only one point. So agriculture, number one, whether we like it or not, that one we cannot deny. Because without food, we cannot eat. So very, very much important to invest in agriculture. So, and creation of employment in imagining such as telecommunication and technology will be our priority of the area to grow the sector into the economic hubs. So nowadays, many people, they are using social media, YouTube. So we cannot ignore that. So we have to prioritize to put more cash on those kind of sectors. So I think on that aspect, so I will only end there. Very, very, very much important to not ignore agriculture. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And now, last but not least, Honorable McHenry Venaani.
A very deep conversation needs to ensure in our country, who are we and what do we want to be? We are a country that is a repository of a lot of minerals. We cannot finance our own electricity while we have uranium. We have found oil in our country. Our ministers are telling us we cannot renegotiate our oil deals. It's already sealed. But there is a country called Papua New Guinea that has renegotiated their own oil deal for our people to benefit more. So I agree with those that are saying we need to start having a deep conversation on forcing those that are extracting our raw materials to be able to process them by creating manufacturing. We are getting copper from Tsumeb, but copper wires are produced in South Africa. We are producing zinc from Rospina, but our shacks, the zinc that we are building our shacks, are produced in South Africa. It's high time that as leaders of this country, and I'm going to make sure that every raw material in this country will be processed for our manufacturing to start. Lastly and fundamentally, agriculture, my dear brothers and sisters, everywhere where you had industrialization across the globe, your first step towards industrialization is agriculture. Agriculture does not only create jobs, it creates what you call value chains. By creating value chains, you are creating new businesses. For example, let me give you just one little example. Kenya buys low-grade maize from Uganda, but they are processing their own maize from Uganda, and they have done that through agriculture. So agriculture has the potential of changing our country. We are benefiting lesser from our perennial rivers. Zambezi, Malawi is getting more money from the Zambezi River than us. So we need to do more, and agriculture should lead the way, but our raw materials must get attention.
Thank you, Honorable. Now.
All right. I've been quiet for a long time. So I want you to put your hands together for me for being quiet for a long time. All right. Now, we are giving the floor to you to be able to ask questions. And let me remind you, please, when somebody's talking, let's have some silence. because every word, every sentence is very important tonight. So you will be given time to ask questions. Keep the questions short and very sweet, please.
And our online participants, you are not left out on the conversation. Please hashtag EagleFM Presidential Debate.
And you can also drop your questions on a comment section there, and those questions will be read loud from here on our social media.
Please give the mic to two of our audiences to ask their question.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My questions is just directed to Dr. Venaani. Before you were appointed as our position, right? You endorsed youth in your political party to be in parliament. But after a short period, you took those youth, you replaced them with the older people. Now, how are we going to be certain and sure that you are really there for the young people? And then I would also like to ask about experience in work, the thing that you want to remove. In government in industries, most of the government industries are falling and they are being disorganized because we had people that were being employed that did not have experience and did not have skills. And for you to remove that, it's going to cause a little bit mess, sorry. Also, in as much as we are enforcing agriculture, you now also have to look at your youth, because your youth don't want agriculture. In as much as we are trying to enforce and all that, that's why when they go to varsity, they do not choose anything that has to do with agriculture. And it's a shame that you guys keep on, sorry, just one more last question. It's a shame that you guys keep on giving the same answers, the same solutions to the same problems, and no change is coming. So can we have something new, maybe for our country, please?
Okay, please hand over the mic to the gentleman in white. His hand has been up for quite some time.
Yes, I don't know why education is not one of the factors that we are looking on, but I have a question about education. Our education system is to tailor us to be servants. How will your administration tailor our education system to ensure that we create innovators?
Okay. Now the first question was posted to the Honorable McHenry Venaani. A chance to answer that question, please.
My young friend, thank you very much. You have asked important questions. Number one, you are very wrong. PDM is the most youthful political party in the country. With more young members of parliament, our central committee has no one above 60. We have kept that faith, and that is from the political side. PDM is cruising very nicely in terms of youth representation. On your two questions that I think are more important than PDM for the country, young people want jobs in their lifetimes. I've just returned from Komsberg, from Noordoever. You will be surprised how many young Namibians are working on those plantations. Young people want jobs, and the system that can give them easy jobs, fast jobs, productive jobs, and sustainable jobs is agriculture. So Honorable Venaani would lead in agricultural mechanization and industrialization to create value change for young people. I will make it fashionable for you, my young lady, to love agriculture, because when you have agriculture, you can produce and you create food security in your lifetime. The other question was about? You see, innovation everywhere where it happens, in South Korea, in Germany, in Japan, great examples where innovation has taken place, has always been about financing. You see, there are many Namibians, that have great bankable ideas. But because your father does not have a house to give collateral, your idea dies. For us to create innovators, we must finance innovators. Financing innovators is to invest money directly in small and medium enterprises. So that is why we are going to have a youth venture capital to look at bankable projects that can be able to create innovators in our country. Thank you very much.
All right. And the second question was directed to all candidates, right? Okay.
Yeah. And of course, that has to do with why don't we have innovators in our education system?
So let me take that. So we've got an environment that does not encourage risk-taking. If you are trying out a concept in business and you fail once, in this country, we look at you like you are from a different planet entirely. Now, if you are to encourage innovation and people that are curious and people that want to innovate, you need to create an environment that is open for people to experiment. Now, there is nobody that has ever experimented and has gotten it right the first time. So we need to create an environment that is open for people to try things and fail. And we also need somebody to be alongside them who is willing to take the risk. Now, the person that has got the biggest wallet in this country is the government of Namibia, because the government of Namibia accumulates all of our savings, right? So when you go into the shop and you buy something, there's this wonderful thing called VAT. Those of us that are fortunate to have vehicles, when you go to the pump and you put in fuel, there is this fuel levy that you pay. If I'm not incorrect, I think it's about $6.20 that you pay every time, on a liter, that you pay every time when you fill up your vehicle. When you recharge your phone, you are paying, if you recharge your phone with the $10, you are paying about $1 and a few cents into the government coffers. They collect all of our taxes, whether we are rich, whether we are poor, whether we are working or whether we are not working. Whether you're 1 day old when your parents buy diapers for you, you are contributing to the government coffers. Now, government should be the first one that should be leading in terms of saying, I'm willing to take the risk alongside you, because what do I get at the end? I get an economy that innovates. I get an economy that generates jobs. I get an economy that says, you know what? From your innovation, there is something that I'm going to reap. And we need to get there. And we unfortunately, we have to force the system to get there.
Thank you very much. And now we are moving on to our third theme. Actually, the candidates want to answer that question as well.
No, I think it's, thank you, Moderator. It's an important question, but it's not just education that leads society toward innovation. That's part of the answer. Normally, society has to make things, then they create things, and from that learning, they begin to innovate. You don't start with innovation. But there are smaller things. I think Dr. Shirare will remember when we were young kids, we had houtwerk, bookbind. Those things were removed. When you were doing things with your hands at primary school, at secondary school, these little subjects were removed that began to sort of show you that this person has that capacity and the other capacity. That one should really bring back. But one of the things that big countries like Kenya have begun to do is to go out to get big corporates invest in Kenya's capacity for innovation post-secondary school. And it's starting to work. And this is why I'm sometimes wondering why, as a country, and she spoke about it, we are simply not willing to speak to people that can assist. Starlink wants to come in here. The answer already from South Africa, from Namibia, is no. But Starlink, and the owner of Starlink, for instance, has been one of the greatest innovators that the world has known in the modern era. Why can't we talk to these people so that we can bring that appetite closer to home? There are companies. If you look at this country, our research capacity, the spending on research is so minimal. You've got to invest in research and development. You have the National University of Science and Technology. What science and technology it does, only God knows. Then you have now AI technologies. That's an innovation. I made to understand, Dr. Job, that one political party used its AI capacity to develop a manifesto. I'm not so sure. But the broader question, I think, is how does the future of work look like? How does the future of work look like for you as a young person? Because
thank you.
We who are 46 years old have helped to construct this country up to now. And that's why as LPM we are calling for a massive national indaba under the theme social and economic transformation of society, so that we can hear from the 71% of young people that constitute more than 2/3 of society.
Thank you,
We
Honorable.
want to hear what you want society to look like going for the next 35 years.
Okay.
We have messed it up for many of you. We want the 21-year-old to come and speak. What should society look like going forward? And you can be concerned about time here.
Thank you, Honorable. Professor Job Ampanda?
So, you see, when you are talking about education, generally you are talking about the curriculum, right? I see some of my students are here, some of them went to parliament, and the colonial project was not just about brutalizing a person. So the Germans didn't just beat you up. They occupied, they controlled, and they started dominating society. That's why we speak about decolonizing the education system, right? So what is this thing that we have as education? I'm apparently employed by a university called the University of Namibia that seems to be losing its key essence of what it's supposed to be able to do. So education is not something that is static. It's something that's supposed to be constantly changing. We ought to be able to interrogating the university and the curriculum every time to be able to see that. But let's also deal with this fallacy about innovation. Are we arguing that we don't have innovators, therefore we must create innovators? That's a very dangerous assumption. Innovators are there. They are there. They don't have opportunities. There's no environment. So Michael tried his Forex things and then they took his money from him. So are you saying we need to create another person? What do we do with the skill set for him to be able to encourage and motivate society, right? So it's very important for us to be very careful about these notions that are fed in our heads, that we need to somehow go out there and create innovators. What we should rather be able to do and ask, but who is these people in our society? Developmental states that we're talking about, the Asian tigers. They first get to understand who are our people, what are they doing, what are their aspirations, what are they succeeding in doing. Why do you, for instance, keep giving millions to one artist who's in his 50s and 60s and not empowering these younger artists? And you say there are no innovators. Good music, better music than some of these guys.
Thank you, Professor. Mr. Mathias Mbundu, what is your take on the question?
So thank you very much. My take on that, the innovation is very, very, very much important. Because I remember when we were young, so we used to do these wiring cars, the one that you can, drive. So, but the problem, the people, they are not taking that serious. Because those particular things you can do, wiring cars, aeroplane is what we used to do. So wooden aeroplane, wooden car. So that you can think yourself what you can do for you to generate an income. So, but you cannot just come out of the blue for you to do that. You have to go through vocational. So you have to have a skill to do that. Someone must teach you, or someone must taught you from. That's why I alluded earlier that from primary level, so that you can, go ahead with your talent which you have. So that is my take on that. Thank you very much.
Okay. Now the floor is yours, Honorable McHenry Venaani. That's the second question, not the first one.
Well, I think the question that I answered the question on innovation, but let me just give you one example. The Memekuru in Onjambarara are making, the Memekuru at Onjambarara, Meme Sophia makes baskets, Oshiwambo baskets. These Oshiwambo baskets, when they are found in London, Westminster Abbey, it is costing 700 British pounds. In New York, it is costing $1,000 US. But that meme knows how to make a Oshiwambo basket. But is there markets under AGOA for our people's produce to be able to access international markets. Our ambassadors are sleeping on the job. Well, our people are producing already from Zambezi, Kavango, everywhere. People are doing a number of things that are needed in the world, but there are no markets to access them. So innovators are existing, but the environments are not there. The young lady asks me a question, if you want to remove experience from young people. My friend, this country used to be run by white people. Here, before 89, maybe some of you were not born. We were born, me and Mr. Swartbooi, Honorable Swartbooi. We were born. Whites that were running the city of, the whites that were running city of Windhoek did not even have standard 8, but they were running. So these things that you are telling graduates, a graduate must have 10 years in order to be able to have a job, it's just a fallacy. We must give jobs to those people. And my policy is that jobs must be given to the young people right away.
Thank you very much. Mr. Vaino, Amuthenu, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. On innovation, we have many talented people.
Silence, please.
We have many talented people in Namibia that only need finance. They need financial support. In Umsati, there is one young boy who make a plane. And there are other people also try to make a cell phone. And I saw also one young boy make a power supply, make his own electricity. So those young boys just need to be polished. Take them somewhere and get polished so that they can do the proper thing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now the audience, please don't despair. We are moving on to our next theme and we will be back to attend to your question. Silence, please, as we move on to the next theme.
Right now, we move to something that is very pertinent to every Namibian, which is land and housing. And now we are dealing with the issue of affordable housing. Approximately 230,000 families live in shack and in informal settlement countrywide. What plans do you have to accelerate the delivery of affordable housing? And how will you ensure that these houses are accessible to the low-income families? Honorable McHenry, Venaani, you go first.
If I have a purpose in life, it has always been about fighting for housing and access to land. In Windhoek, in Swartbooi, everywhere in our cosmopolitan areas, a plot in academia is costing 1.5 million, a plot of 600 square meter. Why? Because of the economies of supply and demand. There are more than 100,000 people looking for that plot, and there's only one plot, so the prices goes up. What should we do to revolutionize access to land? We are having a national land resettlement policy that are giving farms a $16 million farm to 4 families to be settled there to address land redistribution. Now, if you take 14 million in a town like Okahanja and you resettle young Namibians on that land, each one would need close to 40,000 to have an haven in your lifetime. If you look at the land mass of Namibia, close to 825,000 square kilometers, with a population of 3 million, we have the land, but we do not have the policies that can be able to revolutionize access to land. If you make land available through an urban resettlement policy, the land that is costing 1.6 million in academia, if you are making 2,000 plots at Oshitenda today, that land the price would come down to 300,000 because 2,000 Namibians will have access to land. So to address the question of housing, we must have access, equity to land. Secondly, social housing. The whole of Kadutura, many of you were not born,
All the houses in the old Katutura used to belong to the municipality through social housing, but all black people had a toilet, had a two-room house. We must create houses for young professionals that they can rent for cheaper prices, for them to move away from renting shacks and garages. One garage in Katutura is costing already $3,000. So that is how you can be able to address land access.
Right. We give it now to Mrs. Ali Angula.
Thank you. So we have to address adequate housing for our families. And the hard truth is people that are living in shacks make up the majority of Namibians. And this is right through the country. We have to address the issue of supply and focusing on urban land. We've got a lot of land that is owned by the public sector, by government, either by SOEs, by government itself, by local authority. Now, there's nothing in our law that stops us deploying that land and saying, we've got a public interest to deliver housing to the Namibian people, and it is the willingness that is lacking at the moment. Secondly, we have to address where we deploy our capital when it comes to the purchase of land. We have, of course, our land policy, and that is driven by the Act, which just talks about agriculture and commercial land, and how we are going to be buying this land, and how we're going to be financing it, and who we are going to be resettling. And at this current moment, agricultural land is not our most pressing need. We need to be diverting that funding that is allocated in the budget to the acquisition of urban land. And the only way that we can do that, and we can do that, it's really just a budget allocation. And once we do that, we are addressing supply. Thirdly, we need to densify areas that are low density. So Windhoek West, Windhoek North, those are low density areas if you look at the size of the urbans. And de-densify, where you've got the high density in Katutura. If you go to Ombili, if you go to Oshitenda that is being spoken about, if you go to Havana, if you de-densify and you densify where you've got low density.
Now we turn our attention to Honorable Bernadus Swartbooi.
You know, I feel so ashamed that after 400 years of colonialism, this generation has still to be landless. So we have said land is about restorative justice. We are about giving people a plot of 500-600 square meters, what you would say in normal English, free of charge. And on that plot, we are saying the local authority must come in as a participant to build the house. Here in the city of Windhoek a year ago, they tried a project where the local authority gets money and builds houses. Those houses were almost 4 times cheaper than houses of NHE, I think, yeah, Doctor, and houses that are built by other people. That is why Honorable Venaani referred to social housing. I believe in, we believe as a collective team, give the land to the people. They get the local authority through government funding and private sector funding crowded in, build the house. It's the youth that will build the house. So the youth of Windhoek will build their houses, get a job, stay on that job. The youth from Okahanja will get land, build their houses through the local authority, so that you, while resolving a property issue where black people have been landless and propertyless for over 400 years, resolving that issue as a matter of restorative justice and bringing these people into an ownership class so that young people like yourself can start to own property and not have the problems that we have staying with our parents, starting to create children, make and innovate children next to, and therefore respect and social problems begin to dwindle. So it's about the local authority at the forefront of things and together with private sector, and then creating opportunities for those very houses through a national renewable energy company to turn those houses into aggregate producers of electricity.
Right. Following suit, Professor Job Amupanda.
Is there anything that frustrates me is this housing thing. It frustrates me so much to an extent that I'm willing to get an opportunity just to focus on that one. What I've gotten through that frustration is the actual understanding. People don't understand what is the issue here. The issue is two things. Ask yourself this question, how did a domestic worker before independence manage to be able to build a house? Yeah? This is actually what had happened. Housing finance before independence was never an issue of banks. It was always done by building societies. There were two building societies. One was Swartbooi, the building is still there now, it's turned into a court. Another one is called Namibia. Now, in terms of the law, you were not allowed to take over building societies. At independence, those whites, what they did since the blacks have taken over, they amended the Building Societies Act. Swartbooi was taken over by FNB and Namibia were taken over by Bank Windhoek. After that, housing finance became the responsibility of the banks. Go and read the Energy Act. The first mandate of energy is housing finance. Energy is actually a bank. That's the most frustrating thing that we have. Yeah? Because white people and this weak black government were outmaneuvered, and then it became a story of banks. You see, I'm already getting angry. What are we going to do? Two things. We will make sure that energy perform that role. We no longer have a building society anymore. It's just banks. That's what would happen. Housing finance, energy would be properly orientated. In terms, the law is already there. Number two, this RCC, the state must actually build houses. It's the only way we can intervene. To deal with housing problem in Windhoek, you need to at least build 10,000 houses to be able to disturb that. But what I've learned as mayor, they will never allow you to do that because it's their interest.
Mr. Matthias Mbundu.
Thank you very much for the opportunity, Mr. Moderator. So, if land is not properly administered by the state, it creates poverty and losses of job, and also less of economic productivity. So the Republican Party position on this matter is to introduce a comprehensive policy that will involve all Namibians. Such that policy that should protect farm workers if they are evicted from their farms after a retrenchment. So, and also to introduce technical financial assistance to the beginner farmers that will allow them to contribute to the economic. So that is number two. Number three, Namibian-owned commercial and communal feeding scheme to be preferred consumable provided to all government institutions. So the third one, all major tenders, all major tender bidders should allow they must allow to a certain percentage of their profit toward a low-cost house to those people that cannot qualify to build a house. So I mean, in this supplying house low income, to the low income employees that will qualify for tax benefit. So thank you very much.
Audience, you are respectfully and kindly asked to be silent as the candidates are answering the questions.
That's right. And last but not least, Mr. Vaino Amuthenu.
Thank you. The low-cost houses is still happening. For example, in Oshakati, there is Tutungeni, Turipamwe, or whatever. One of my employee benefit and is now having a house through those projects that is happening in the surrounding area in Noshakati. And the other thing to build more houses for our people is when we identify the poor regional and the regional council and town council to be shareholders in the multinational companies that are exploiting our mineral resources, so that they can get the dividend or the share from those companies to assist on housing building. For example, here we have many towns: Rosing, Uranium, Combat, Tumeb. Those towns were built by mining companies. But now, because we decided to take some shares direct into our pocket, the company only give the government 2 or 3%. The rest is going direct to the owner of EPL or whatever they call it. So if we tackle those things, the mining companies will assist small towns to build houses, low-cost houses for their residents. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we move on to our next theme, which is health. Now the first question being, on the cost of health, around 2.5 million Namibians depend on the public health care system, with the cost and the shortage of essential medicines in public hospitals continuing to be a critical issue. How will you address this ongoing crisis and ensure that no Namibian is left without the medical care that they need? Professor Job, Amupanda, I begin with you.
I think generally there are two things. With health, you get sick and you go to the hospital. Yeah? That treatment orientation, patients versus doctor, and you are dealing with issues of ratios and one thing. Yeah? So you need to get your hospitals in order and things like that. Yeah? My contribution to the discussion is that that's what I guess candidates will focus on. But there's one thing that we don't do, and we saw it with COVID: indigenous medicine. Yeah? When people ended up steaming and Kalumbi, I mean, without shame, having grown up in these communities, and he's standing up telling people, no, you cannot steam, you cannot use elephant shit, you can't do all these things. But that's how we've been treating ourselves, yeah? And people went to those machines and died. So we need to actually be very serious about that. I mean, whenever I have flu, I always use Izimba. But I always wonder, what is contained in that Izimba? Is it not scientific for a sun person to be able to identify a poison that can go on top of the arrow and kill a lion within 30 seconds? Is that not scientific enough? Or is it because it didn't come from Germany? So we need to also be able to come and say that indigenous, we always had a health system. It's not about procurement and all those things. Of course, we need to be able to attend to that. But I guess colleagues will focus on that. But for me, it's about time for us to be able to do that. Last, you saw when these diseases are coming, when you just hear there's chicken pox, there's what. But we don't have an institute that studies communicable or non-communicable diseases or communicable diseases. So we need to actually, at the state level, we're not talking about NIP that tests blood and send it to South Africa. We need to actually, which diseases is spreading where? We don't have those institutions.
Thank you. Mr. Vaino, Amuthenu, your take on this.
Thank you. The moment we put a boundary between a politician and a businessman, for example, those who create, who have their private hospitals, then things will go smoothly, because what we want more is not to take people to Medipack or whatever. We want to put more effort on equipping hospitals so that we can have all what the doctors need in those hospitals. But now the problem is the private hospital is owned by politicians. Now it's become difficult for medicine to be available in public hospital because they So what is to be done? We need to have a government that punish or that take to order politicians that are in conflict with what with their responsibility in government.
Thank you very much. Honorable McHenry Venaani, your take on this question.
My friends, this I shall say without fear of contradiction. This country, the bearer of our souls, quantum of our hopes, called Namibia, must move towards universal health care. In Morocco, an African country, in Algeria, now in South Africa, they have adopted universal health care. There is no need for us to have substandard public hospitals. And with PDM, we have proved that government was very deliberate. Honorable Winnie Mongo, one of our fierce young Shadow Minister of Health, raised a motion on private dialysis, why government was subletting dialysis services to private institutions. Today, government has put up a dialysis center. So we are being very deliberate with these things. PDM's policy is to bring about universal health care in our lifetime. We should fight for it. Anything that a country can give to its citizen, it's health and education. So addressing the health gap and the lack of doctors in this country, we must train our people, send our young people to training schools, create a workable healthcare. If it works for Venaani, it must work for Peter. This thing that every president who gets sick goes abroad. Every minister who gets sick go to South Africa. But every national Namibian must queue up for 7 hours waiting for a doctor. It's time for universal healthcare.
Thank you very much, Honorable. Mr. Mathias Mbundu, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Madam Moderator, to this question. So I think I'll take 2 points on this question. So number one is to ensure that those Namibians that cannot afford complex medical, especially like dialysis and other critical costly treatment, it must be adequately funded by the government. And also, number two, to legislate alternative healing practices that can encourage the use of medicine such as healing herbs. So when I'm talking about this, it's not like witch doctors. So because I'm talking out of experience of myself. I had COVID, but I was keep on steaming, using the trees, some of the trees that the elder people told us, and also the roots to put in the water to suck and to drink, and the leaves and to steam. So I tell you, I never went to hospital. So it's very, very important so that we can put those in place. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Ms. Angula, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So this is a very important and serious conversation because it's about lives. Health is about lives. We've got a very vast country. So I've been traveling this beautiful country of ours for the past 5 months. I've now done 17,000 kilos on my vehicle. And you get to a place like Opuo. And in that region, that Kunene region, all the health services are congregated, consolidated in Opuo. So people are having to travel distances to access healthcare. And then they get there, and it's not 7 hours. Then you are there the whole weekend before you get seen. So the one thing that we need to do is we need to acknowledge that we've got a vast country. The only way to address and deliver healthcare in this country is by considering having more mobile healthcare services that is being provided. We've got our mothers that are having to camp out at a hospital like Onanjokwe because a person doesn't know what their delivery date is, and they cannot travel on the gravel roads a week or 2 weeks before they deliver. So they go and they camp out in the open at Onanjokwe maternity ward so that they don't get into issues of early delivery. We have to sort out making sure that everybody has got access to healthcare. And perhaps one of the things that we need to look at is mobile clinics. We've got these VTC graduates that are graduating as mechanics. And building a mobile clinic is not rocket science. It's just giving people opportunities. Secondly, we've got the economics of healthcare. So in this country, in this current year's budget, there's an allocation of 234 million to one hospital, which is not government-owned. Now, your Ministry of Labor, Industrial Relations and Employment Creation has received for the entire year 222 million. That's going to one hospital that's not government-owned. Your allocation for diagnostic machines.
Please do know that you will get ample time after the debate to say something to the audience and to our participants online. Now, last but not least, under this theme of health, Honorable Bernadus.
Health issue, out of the 2.5 million people that depend on public health, about 63% use clinics. And we all know how clinics look like. So our approach to that question is to make sure that every clinic has a medical doctor attached to it. It is possible. We have already 596 doctors trained. You can get them to serve clinics. So that's one. And then because of the number of people that use clinics, you will have to bring in all the necessary equipment and machinery as much as can be hosted in a clinic to ensure that your services touch the rural communities as much as possible and therefore reduce the pressure on the bigger hospitals and so on. But the bigger thing also is that hospitals have become recipients of hungry people. So people end up staying longer in hospitals to avoid hunger outside. So this issue of healthcare and hunger is interconnected because you have not just malnutrition, because of malnutrition people have to go on drip, but also severe stunting of little ones who never grow up to their full potential. And so you have destroyed the life of a person. And so universal health care is one of the important things that we can and should bring in, and that's what we are saying in our manifesto. It is possible. Machines are not properly equipped. You look at oxygen, the same tenderpreneur keeps on getting oxygen supplies, and we say decentralize the supplies to the medical facilities so that Oshikoto region can buy its medication, Karas can buy its own medication, Omaheke can buy its own medication, instead of having it in the hands of the cabal here based in Windhoek, dictating and undermining the medical supply system. And that's where part of the problem is, where we're incapacitated. Thank you.
Now we move on to our social media platforms. A question from one of our social media online participants, Sydney Muremi, says, please ask the panelists to engage on the possibility of government of national unity if none gets 50% plus. Ms. Ali Angula, I will start with you.
Wonderful question. So as an independent candidate, it fits very well with why I'm running as an independent candidate. So we've got a constitution that says your cabinet must be constituted up of people that are in your National Assembly. When we vote a president who is from a political party, when they appoint their cabinet, that cabinet is made up of 100% their political party. Now it leaves out very good people that have been voted in by the Namibian people and quality people. So I mean, if here you can discern that there is quality in the room, but it's coming from different political parties, right? The only way to achieve that inclusivity and making sure that all the good ideas filter to the top is by having a government of national unity. By voting in, and here I'm campaigning, voting in an independent presidential candidate will ensure that the cabinet of Namibia is represented of the various skills that we've got coming in from the political parties.
Thank you so much. Honorable Bernadus Swartbooi, the floor is yours.
We are fighting to take everything we can. So it's at this point a fictitious question that I would not want to engage into. Precisely what are you going to unify? Criminals and angels, donkeys and horses, what is it? Because the fundamentals that we disagree with some of the colleagues are very real. From the ideological questions and so on, some of the colleagues, like independent candidates, you do not understand where they are. Some of the independent candidates have never led anything, not even chickens, but they are candidates. Some political parties don't have a serious agenda. They are left to this and right on that issue. They are liberals and neoliberals and so you've got to be serious about what you want to do, because governance is a serious matter. If we have to unify with somebody to do things, fine, but it has to be the final question, not at this point.
Noted. Professor Job Amupanda, the floor is yours.
I think we must have a sense of occasion. It's always very important. I see my bishop here, Katenda is there. And I'm sure if I go to his church and then I say, man, Bishop, I want to establish a church of Satan, it will be a problem. What is it that I'm saying? How can it? What's happening there is already, it is his time on the screen because he didn't finish. Sort it out quickly.
You may continue, sir.
No. Sort it out before I...
Colleagues, kindly sort it out.
Oh, do you want me to use his time?
So why did I not have a chance to finish my time?
No, you Honorable, you finished. I take it you gave your point and you ended there, so also appreciate it. Okay.
So can I go now?
Yes, sir.
So if I go to Bishop Katenda's, I'm using that analogy to be able to say that we must have a sense of occasion. What is happening? Oh, so it only happens to me.
Professor, continue.
Okay.
We'll give you 2 minutes.
So we must have a sense of occasion. When you get married, can you imagine a pastor saying, what do you think of divorce and how are you going to handle divorce? So we are absolutely here to change our society. We are very serious. I'm a professor at the university. I could stay there and get that income that I'm getting. Yeah, for all likelihood, we are trying to sacrifice for this. I could go to Germany with Conrad and be some other things. But we are very serious about these things. Personal sacrifices. As a professor, getting insulted every day. So we are very serious. So we can't go in an election and the first thing that we are talking about, how are we going to put the things together? We want to take over. The question of government of national unity is not something that you prepare for. It's not even whether you like it or not. If the numerical facts are such that no one is 50+1, you are left with no choice but to engage. So it's not even anyone who's telling you, no, we want that, that's what we want. Eventually when you get there, that's what is going to happen. When you are in an accident, you have to take a person to the hospital because that's the only place they have to go. It's not something that you strategize. We want, for example, we are saying, we don't want tax on pension. You know, you work your life so hard and then 400,000 goes to these politicians that are misusing it. But imagine if you can keep that 400,000 that is taxed on your pension to build a business and do some other things. So we are very serious about those things. So we will close the bridge when we reach there.
Thank you. And just a correction, it's 1 minute for questions from online participants and the audience. Okay. Now we move on to you, Mr. Mathias Mbundu.
So thank you very much once again, Madam Moderator. So this one is very easy. So it's the leadership, because you must have a calling sometimes, not for the sake of your degree or master degrees. So meaning that the problem we are focusing on the political party. You are not focusing in the quality of that particular person that is really going to deliver, or is just only going to deliver by himself. So it's very, very important so that we can sometimes put aside this, our ideology or our doctrine. So we have to see a person that you are voting in power so that he can serve the nation, not to be.
Thank you very much. Honorable McHenry Venaani, your take on this.
Fellow Namibians, I'm a serious political interlocutor who understand and deeply experience about our country. I tell you, I'm running to become the president of this country. I hope and pray that I become president of Namibia. But in the eventuality that no one wins power, even my government, even if I win presidency, I would pick a la creme la crop from every party to form a government that will work for our people. It is important for us to reset our country on a trajectory of hope. And hope cannot only come from my party alone. It can come from all able Namibians that are around the table to take this country forward.
Thank you, Honorable. Now over to you, Mr. Vaino Amuthenu.
Thank you. If there is
silence, please.
If there is no party or candidate that reach 50 and plus, then we are forced by the Constitution to unite. And it will be good for us to have a new beginning. No one will be claimed to be a chief or okay.
Thank you very much. Now we move on to our last theme for this evening. Franz Senegela is going to walk you through that.
All right. There is no paramount chiefdomship in a political setup. Right. Now, something that is very, 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 very pertinent that both you and your presidential hopefuls are concerned about, it is called corruption. I'm about to ask you to put your hands up together for corruption, but let me reserve that. Now, various barometer surveys have shown that corruption continues to be a major concern for Namibians. What concrete actions will you take to root out corruption, especially within the highest levels of government? I will start with Professor Mbundu.
I think corruption is a cancer to any nation. And they are enablers of corruption that you need to be able to deal with, and there are institutions that are supposed to deal with corruption. I still argue that there are two institutions that, by law, they're supposed to deal with corruption. For example, when you read what the ombudsman is supposed to do, they do this maladministration, which is effectively what corruption is. And then you have now this ACC, very problematic. I actually wrote a paper on the ACC. Now, it's called Anti-Corruption Commission. It is the only commission without commissioners, as far as I'm concerned. I don't understand why it's called a commission in the first place. National Planning Commission, any other commission, just think about it, there will always be commissioners. Now, investigators, I've taken cases there by myself, and the investigator will tell me that, no, we did, but our boss decided otherwise. So what will happen is that investigators will investigate. And then after they're done with the investigation, the law gives power to one person and one person's only. Yeah? Whether it's Noah or you, doesn't matter. So that person decides whether to forward the file to the prosecutor general or not. Yeah? So what we want to do, as far as that institution is concerned, is that the commission must become a commission. So in other words, it must also have commissioners. So the decision whether to refer a file. So what it basically means in our country, you have corruption that can be confirmed by investigation, but because of discretional legal powers given to one individual, he decides that the file is closed. And once he decides that the file is closed, that's it. So what needed to happen is that it must be a commission that decides, so more than one person. So your life actually, the life even of criminals depend on one person. So that's one of the things that we're going to change. And this 2-minute thing of yours, I couldn't go to the next leg again.
Honorable McHenry Venaani, the floor is yours.
Fellow countrymen, there is one political party that is already at the courts indicted for corruption. That must give evidence on what they did with fish rot money. Let's not forget about that discussion. First thing that we need to do is that Mr. Noah must get off that office. He is not fighting corruption. He is only clearing his cronies and friends. The Whistleblowers Protection Act mandates that an office must be created. Up to now, that office has not been given a mandate. The very reason how Mr. Noah and her deputy was appointed, the opposition party through myself went to court to say, why are you bringing in people behind the night for parliament to come and rapus them? So these things of clearing, someone who steals money at a school is found anti-corruption. Someone who is claimed to have stolen 20 million or 10 million, we know the Namcor billions of dollars of oil that are being stolen there, and the Namcor fiasco. Noah is clearing all these corruption cases. So we must realize that the people that are heading these institutions are not reputable to represent us. And when I get into office, I get someone who has a reputable character of a former judge to be able to fight the anti-corruption crusade. I can't have someone who is the head of anti-corruption who is sitting on a WhatsApp group of a political party, and you want this person to clear corruption in this country. We must fight corruption hands-on. We must create institutions that are very tough to be able to fight corruption. One of them is Whistleblower Protection Act. In my first 100 days in office, I will put someone in the whistle protection office to be able to fight corruption, and Noah will go under my watch.
All right. Honorable Bernadus Swartbooi.
Well, thank you very much. I think what would be important from my experience in government, and many of the colleagues with me at this table respectfully do not have the necessary experience at local, regional, national government, and they like to talk and talk. But my experience is that we'll have to create smaller internal units within offices, ministries, agencies, regional councils, local authorities that will deal with corruption right there, so that there is an immediate oversight of the functions and the activities and the interpretation of the laws and the application of the laws as it relates to Corruption Act. It's very important. The second thing that we'll obviously have to do is to deal with this question of the commission without commissioners, but also to revamp the leadership
of the Anti-Corruption Commission at national level, so that the ACC deals with grand corruption. Let me give you an example. A SWAPO minister knows that they have a company called Kalari Holdings. That company applies to get some sort of concession, and the cabinet sits in granting a concession to a SWAPO company. No one declares a conflict of interest because they are members of that party. That's grand corruption. That is not spoken about, and that is the bigger problem that we'll have to deal with. So you'll have to have commissioners from various segments of society, including eminent persons, that will have to direct the work of the Anti-Corruption Commission. And you've also got to deal with a Prosecutor General's office that also has an oversight function in terms of what she prosecutes and what that office prosecutes. Because often that office, even if the evidence is not there, gives power to the Prosecutor General to decide on prosecution. Some people never get prosecuted because they are necessarily well connected to the system. So there's a local solution that we're proposing departmentally to create a division wherever, and nationally to change the mandate of the Anti-Corruption Commission.
Mrs. Ali Angula. I'm almost saying Angula here.
So I really like to simplify things. When a person steals a cow and we find them, they are jailed, they are prosecuted, we give them a jail term, they go to jail, right? When a person steals a vehicle, the same. When a person steals money, somebody else's money that does not belong to them, the same. Now we've decided to go a different route to somebody who steals in a suit. Because they are stealing in a suit and they're in an office, it's a different crime. We must have different people dealing with it. Instead of just saying you're actually stealing and you're stealing public funds. And you're not just stealing public funds, but you're stealing from the future, right? It's a crime. Why must it be treated differently because you are stealing when you're in a suit? Now, I find it very interesting in this country that a person who steals millions, they never get caught. But let a person steal 150,000, immediately we know where they are and we catch them, right? So for me, it's this classification of something that is a crime, and we've decided we're going to call it something else. There's a different process for us to investigate, and then we decide whether we're going to investigate. Treat a crime what it is. It is a crime. Call it what it is. And when we call it different things, then we end up taking different routes. And we are doing an injustice to the Namibian people. It is stealing, whether you are stealing in a suit, whether you are stealing in an office, it is stealing. Get prosecuted. Let's have the same investigation route. Go to jail. And then when you go to jail, let's, trial, you not have this thing of where people are sitting in jail for 5 years and nobody has been prosecuted. Where 95% of the criminals are sitting outside and still campaigning.
All right. Please, I will cordially ask you to exercise silence when a candidate is speaking, please. Because every sentence is very important tonight. Right. Let me turn the attention to Mr. Vaino Amuthenu.
Thank you. For us to get rid of corruption in this country, we must first stop with the policy of cadre deployment, job for comrades. Because those comrades that were put on the key position in Parastata and other government institutions, they are the people that steal our taxpayers' money. We have to make a policy that allow all those positions to be made by the parliamentarian. All the appointment must be done there. Parliament must create a committee that appoint people in those positions. Because if all of them are appointed from State House, from the president, then corruption will not end in this country. Thank you.
All right, we are getting some sense of humor from the crowd there. Right. So, last but not least, Mr. Matthias Mbundu.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator, for that question. So corruption, it has to start from ourselves. So it has to start from ourselves. And we are even, just ask yourself from our houses, we are even corrupting our own children. We are even corrupting our own wives. You see, if you are eating food, I just want to use this as an example. If you are eating food around the table with your family and you are giving small meat to the kids, that's corrupt. You see, we have to start there. On our point, you know, we have ACC in the country, but that body is not independent. It's not an independent body. Because why I'm saying it's not independent body, the person that's appointing that particular person is a president. So, meaning that he will not tackle those sensitive cases because he's getting an order from the head. You say how he will be transparent. So, meaning that we have to have a transparent leader that can, the person that don't like corruption. But if you have a corrupt president of the country, obviously that body, it won't be independent body. There's no way it will be independent. So because it's getting the instruction from the head. So do this and do A, B, do C. So then when you go to that office and ask, they will say, no, we are busy with the investigation. So after 10 years, after 15 years.
Thank you so much. And
All
now,
right.
we give the floor to our candidates to give their 3 minutes closing remarks and convince the audience and online participants why they deserve your vote. We begin with Ms. Ali Angula.
Thank you very much. So I think it goes without saying that for us that are in the room, for us that are listening and watching, that we acknowledge that Namibia is going through a really, really tough time. It's a tough time economically. We are dealing with 34 years of failed policies that have delivered joblessness, they've delivered hunger, they've delivered an economic coma, and they've delivered a housing crisis. The current administration has failed to deconstruct the apartheid economic structure. And then they've piled on that corruption and greed that only feeds those that are connected to it. We will be taking our biggest risk if we are to renew their mandate. The second biggest risk that we'll be taking on as a country on the 27th of November, 2024, is if we vote for the same but different, by voting for all these offshoot parties that are affiliated or have come out of a failed administration. I have spent, my time is going, guys. I have spent 5 months on the road, 17,000 kilometers, and I have been welcomed into the homes of many Namibians. I have seen the never die spirit of Namibians as they're having to deal with the everyday struggles of life in Namibia, and they are dealing with whatever is thrown at them. For me, it is time that we do things in a drastically new way by investing in the potential of the Namibian people. That is why I will implement the 12 billion Enterprise Namibia Fund, which will fund local businesses so that the local businesses can create the jobs that we so dearly need. We need to restore the trust that we have in the government by having a government that is able to react to the needs of Namibians, that can recognize when people need help, which is why I am pushing, and I will implement the 1,750 basic income grant.
Thank you very
which
much.
will be universal. I don't think that was 3 minutes. I think that was
exactly
counting,
3 minutes.
I think it was counting down on 1 minute.
No.
I will be pushing for the basic income grant so that Namibians can get the help that they need.
Ms. Ali,
Thirdly,
your time is up. Thank you very much. And now, Mr. Vaino Amuthenu, your closing remarks.
Thank you.
It went 3 times. Yes.
I'm urging all the Namibian people to go and vote for the Congress of Democrats to fulfill what we have started in 1999, because many of you were part of that idea. I'm holding the party for you not to die. I'm waiting for you because I'm about to retire now. I'm getting old. I want the Namibian people to support COD so that they can come and take over to decide their own future. COD have a rich history. Those who followed the manifesto of the Congress of Democrats and its behaviors in this country is the only party that can put Namibia in the right direction. We are not violent. We have reconciliation. We are welcoming everyone, black, white, yellow, whatever. We believe that Namibia is the land for those who live in Namibia, who was born in Namibia. It is all for Namibian. We are not xenophobic. But the policy of taking care of our people must be there. If we said for the immediate job to the youth, we have to see those who are not skilled foreigners in Namibia. They must be replaced with our youth in the country. So, come 27 November 2024, I'm waiting for you to come and take COD forward. So the star will continue to shine. Thank you.
Honorable McHenry Venaani, your closing remarks.
fellow sovereigns of our country, the time has never become more urgent than now to bring about socio-economic change to our country, to reset our country on a new trajectory of hope, to restore the dignity of our people, to work for jobs. A country that must work for Sophia in Njambarara. It must still work for John in Oshinene. It must still work for Isaacs in Koregas. A country must work for all of us. We as a country cannot afford to have another 5 years of the same policies. Policies that are recreated. Today the ruling party is talking about a new initiative, mind you, of removing the red line. But this new initiative is going to be planned in the next 2 years. But it is proposed before an election so that we vote. And after 2 years, we will hear that there is no funding for the project. Fellow Namibians, if we want to have better jobs in our lifetime, if we want to end the cycle of young people being asked 10 years of experience, we must bring about change. If we want to build homes, create a fund, an equity fund, a collateral fund for young people to start SMEs, give us your hand. Give us your trust so that we be able to change this country. We are going to work for teachers, teachers that are living in shacks, teachers that are underpaid. We are going to work for police officers, our securocrats, our army officers, our security officers, our nurses. Everyone shall be taken care of. Under my watch, as a mature leader, I am going to keep this country together. I am going to keep harmony. As a patriot, as a nationalist, as a Pan-Africanist, I am going to lead, creating new markets under the African Continental Free Trade Area, under various markets to bring about change in this country. Give me your hand, let's change our country, let's reset Namibia.
Mr. Matthias Mbundu, your 3 minutes closing remarks, please.
Thank you very much. Once again, Madam Moderator. Our party founded on a Christian value, which most Namibians grow up with. But the value are slowly disappearing from areas of life. Our manifesto and political point of view that we need to retain a time where greedy hate was discouraged through biblical teaching and way of life. If you want to live a better Namibia, so for future generation, we might be regarded as unconventional, a time of politics, talking about smart and loud unnecessarily, but we know that many Namibians want God-fearing and also wise leader in all government offices. Today, RP is making this offer to encourage you all to go study our political viewpoints, then for you to make a choice to go vote wisely for RP. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Professor Job Ampanda, your 3 minutes closing remarks.
So thank you very much. I don't have much time of it, but firstly, I just want to thank Eagle FM for inviting us. And I think, Director of Conrad, we need to have a conversation. So we need to just ensure that these things don't happen again. So there's a sensitive time. Sometimes you need to retreat. If I was in Germany, I'm sure I can't do that. But we will have discussion about some of these things. Now, there come a time in the history of any country where you have to be very decisive. You either fight or submit. I want you to imagine a situation where one day things get worse and your child will ask you, Daddy or Mommy, what did you do when things began to get worse? Did you say you were not participating? Did you say you were young? And you can see I don't wear suits, I don't look nice and things like that. Because I represent a generation of young men and women with talent and energy who are standing up to be able to fight. We don't have any choice but to fight. I went to Katima, a young person walked to me and said that, yes, I do drugs. Yes, I steal. But there's nothing that I can do. I'm only sharing this because you are young like me. If we don't stand up, if the AR movement didn't stand up, those of you who are going to be fired, you would have lost your pension. Yes. That FEMA went through that parliament. If the AR movement didn't stand up, plus many others who support us ideologically, there would have been a $3 billion parliament built. You are hearing what they are talking about, the red line and all those things. Yeah? So it is very important as a generation for us to stand up. We are going to fight this and win with dignity. And if we don't win, we lose with dignity. It's very important for us to be very clear about that. This parliament is not just me who's running for as president, whether I'm going to do this as president. I'm very clear in terms of what I'm capable of doing. But I'm also talking about the generation of young men and women with talent and energy to go to that parliament. That parliament passed 16 bills from white people from Europe. Just like that. I had to write to them, I had to appeal to some MPs there, please fight, man, you know. Those bills were passed. And it continues over, those MPs are just there wearing suits. So it is very important for us to understand. It is very important, you can deal with your PDM stories. PDMs are good people. So please be disciplined. I have students that I produce that are in PDM, so don't shout. They are doing a good job. It's very important for you to understand. It is very important to understand that we have a generational program and mission. Yes, the AR movement is going to fight. Yes, I'm going to fight to be president. But I am also interested in young men and women with talent and energy, be it in LPM, be it in Southwest Africa, so that as a generation, we need to be able to stand up and fight. We don't have any option. We need to understand that we don't have any option but to fight. If we don't fight, our children are going to ask you one day when things are worse, what did you do? Yes, Father Katenda is praying for us. But what did you do when things began to get worse? Thank you very much.
Now last but definitely not least, Honorable Bernadus Swartbooi.
Let me also do a Venaani style first. My brother does it. Thank you very much. I think one of the cliches in politics is written by Frantz Fanon that says, every generation has a mission and they must decide to fulfill it or betray it. And I think we are at that critical moment in the history of this country where those that were born 35 years ago are the absolute majority, where we want together with them and the rest of society that constitutes the 29% to communicate and live through a different vision. A vision in which each and every child that is born in this country knows through the parents and the grandparents that their deepest dreams and aspirations can be met. A vision of a country where the young people know that their government has got their back. A vision where the young people of this country know and understand that they need to bring the best foot forward and society will carry them to their destination. A vision in which healthcare is a given for the rest of society, poor or rich. A vision in which education and training is not a privilege, but it is some of the inborn things that society gives to its children. This is the vision that we are standing up for. This is the time where young people must be put at the forefront of leadership, experienced or inexperienced, to be trained to take the mantle of leadership forward, because all that we have been doing is for the young people of this country. We're in a time and in a season where the old must die so that the new is born. And the new is right here, the 71%. They've got to be born. They've got to take their future. And LPM believes in these young people. We are the only party that took young people and made them mayors and chairpersons. We made them chief whips and we pushed them forward with challenges that they've had, with life sacrifices that they have to make, we push them forward so that they can learn what leadership takes to fulfill that role. We're a party that understands that land and restorative justice is a key component of restoring the dignity of each and every person in our society. That for over 400 years, our lives have been one of miserable failure upon failure, of poverty, which has been our companion, as though we are unable to get a better life for ourselves. We've got now to take the state in our own hands and deliver it for the betterment of our lives. There are those in this campaign that you will find well articulated, but no experience in leadership. They are independent candidates who say God called them, but God does not just call like that. God destines you for a purpose, and you've got to demonstrate experience, skills, and capacity to take society forward. It's not about statistics and about little plans. It's about the ability to lead society for the better.
Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause again for our presidential candidates.
All right. All right. All right. All right. Please be still and know that I am the moderator. All right. Now, there are up to 4 key words. One important one is, there is no Brevols in Shakati. So, if you find Brevols in Shakati, you need to report to the government immediately. Okay. Now, second key word, the San people are the first in the world to create tactical nuclear weapon that is able to kill an animal within 2 minutes time. So, now, last one, not least, I will omit the 4th one. There is no paramount chiefdomship in politics. So those are keywords. Right. This has been second Eagle presidential debate, and we have come to a close. Thank you very much to our presidential hopefuls and candidates for taking your time to answer very pertinent questions that are coming from us, are coming from your people that are hoping, or that you hope to deserve their vote. Please come 27th of November, 2024. Take your voter's card and go and answer the very key question that is in your heart. So from me, Francine Ngera, I would want to appreciate all of you for coming and give yourself a very powerful round of applause for making it to the second presidential candidate. Thank you very much.
From Minda for Happy Juju, ladies and gentlemen, it is a good night. I'm coming for you. Yeah. Yeah, I know. One of the guys.
Try your best, don't lose it. See